The first step for using the app is selecting the documents you want to obtain answers from. And you do that in two steps. First, you choose a folder of documents. So we could just choose the main industry data project folder, in which case if we just look at how many PDFs are in there, and so the dry run allows you to just check how many documents you will potentially be processing, and there are 500 PDFs, but as you can see, some of them are not unlikely to be documents we're interested in. So that's why you can use a filter like it must contain the term CBA or collective or agreement or contract, and then you can also you could use and to make sure both, like it would be CBA or collective or agreement and contract, but you can group your terms together with parentheses. But for now, I think this is what I found seem like good search keys. And then you can also exclude things with not, and saying not copy can work because sometimes you make a copy of a document and it shows up just with the suffix copy, and that will exclude those. Using the dry run, there are 183 results, which are probably what you might be interested in processing, but just to save time, I will also limit it just to the Air Canada folder, and you see there are only 6 candidates found. And now that we've gotten down to the documents of interest, we actually process them. And this is a one-time setup cost as long as you don't rename the documents or move them to a new location. They're being processed now so that later we can answer questions from them. This will take a little bit of time, and definitely much longer if you were trying to process 180 contracts, so it's the kind of thing you might set in motion and walk away from. And of course, feel free to skip to a place in the video where all documents have been processed. So now we've processed our documents. We can see all of them here. One failed. That's because this is a PDF, but it's one where there was no text. It was just scanned pictures of a contract. I think that's probably the case for older contracts. So that one fails. That'll typically be the reason why. Now we come down to the next stage for questions. There's always a preloaded question by default, just asking what the effective date is. You can remove it, but I'll leave it for now. I'll add another question. We might be interested. Give the question a name, and oops. And there are different question types. Short answer could work here, but doing yes or no constrains the answer output to just being a yes or no, which kind of makes it easier to scan later. Of course, we know they're all going to be Canadian because they're from the Canadian folder, but just as a demo, this could be a helpful question to filter later. Then we'll add another question. Oh, and I'll mention that number is a type I implemented that gives extra instructions to the AI, trying to force things to all have the same units, which can help for sorting later, but it can introduce some errors. So often, yes, no, date, or short answer will be your best bet. When you're writing question text, I would suggest keeping it fairly concise and using the kind of language you would expect to see in the contract. If the question text will be used both to answer your question and also to extract the relevant information from the contract. If you think the AI could use more input on, once it's gotten the right portion of the contract, how to process it, then you can give that extra description here, but you don't want to give it too much in the question text, otherwise it will confuse it and get irrelevant portions of the contract. So now we can run questions. There are 3 questions across 5 documents. It will keep track of what question for which document it's currently answering. Again, feel free to fast forward because this might take a while. So here we have our outputs. For every question, you get an answer, notes, and a quote from the source document. For effective date and whether it's Canadian or not, we might not need as much proof, so we can take those out. And then we see for each file name, it shows you the whole source path if you want to go check it out yourself, but it has the effective date, whether or not it's Canadian, as we know it's yes for all of them, and then information on the sick leave accrual policy. And for instance, you can get a direct quote that was used to fill out that answer. And notes are kind of the bridge between the quote and the final answer. It includes the PDF page that was used to decide the final answer, or where the relevant portion of the contract was extracted from to answer the question. This is the PDF page, not the document page. And then you can also use filters. So if you only want to look at contracts in 2020, you could do that. For short answers, it's a kind of string filter, but you could look for a specific word, and then the only answers with the word month, for instance, would be left. But this would be the table output, and then if you wanted to save this output, you could click Export CSV. It tells you that it's exported it to your downloads folder. And just open it in Excel. And then, yes, there's your Excel output for the questions you requested. So that's a demo. Hopefully it helps you set it up and run some sample questions. Please let me know your feedback, how it works for you, if you have any setup issues, or what you find when you start answering the questions you're interested in.